If film school didn't teach you this, didn't tell you about the options for distributing independent feature films, then you're kind of operating at a disadvantage because making the movie is actually way easier than selling an independent movie. So I'm going to go through and tier rank all of the options for distributing independent feature films. We're going to go through 5 categories. We're going to do control, data, speed of payment, legitimacy, and then the actual money split, and see where things fall on the ranking. Hopefully this will give you just some of the raw data so that you can make an informed decision on the platforms that are out there, what their pros and cons are, and ideally I'd love to hear your experience, like positive or negative, with distributing a movie if you've ever done that, because the community needs to help each other to be able to tell people what's working and what's not working in real time, because a lot of stuff is really not working right now. All right, category number 1, control. Who feels like they own the movie? How does it feel to you? How much are you allowed to change, and when are you allowed to change it? Can you change out your poster, your synopsis, the look of the page to see what converts best? What actually causes people when they hit your page to buy the movie? And can you install tracking pixels from Meta or TikTok or something so that you can actually tell when someone bought your movie versus when they didn't? So those are the 2 types of control we're talking about here. Very important if you actually care about people actually buying your movie online. So let's jump right in here. First piece, we're going to go Vimeo on demand. I think this is A tier level control because of 2 reasons. One is you can change everything anytime. You can put a new poster, a new thumbnail, new synopsis, all of that stuff. I believe you can even re-upload a copy of your movie if you found a glitch or something and no one will notice. You can also, the second thing is install a tracking pixel. So this makes it very unique. You can actually put a Meta tracking pixel. When people hit that page, it will ping back to Meta and say, someone bought the movie, find more people like that. I want people to buy my movie. So it goes right in A tier for that reason. You can also change the color scheme. It's not S tier because it's still Vimeo. It still looks like Vimeo, and you can change the colors, but you're still on Vimeo. For that reason, we're going to drop YouTube movies into B tier because you have less control and no tracking pixel. So that's a huge downside. And it still is YouTube, but YouTube people trust. But anyway, it's still, there's less control. As far as S tier options go, I'm going to say Squarespace, building your own Squarespace site. And then, with the checkout page, and afterwards there's a page with the movie on it or something like that. That's going to go straight into S tier, as well as building your own very expensive Netflix fully custom video player website type thing. They both have downsides, but as far as control goes, unparalleled, because how much do you want to pay for how much control do you want? You can put, an entirely new design on it. You can switch things out at any point. You can test 2 different landing pages of the movie to see which one converts people to buy more often for cheaper ad costs. I mean, just crazy amounts of control. We'll go down to Gumroad. I'm going to put this in C tier because yes, you have control, but you're still locked into an interface that looks like it's kind of selling Photoshop brush packs or something like that. So the control is partially there. These are the classic versions. I made Tubi its own thing because it's a little different. But at Film Hub, this is the most classic aggregator, which is where you pay them one time to put your movie on Apple TV and Amazon Prime and all that, and they take a cut too. But you're not locked into a long-term contract. So they're going to go in D tier because it's very hard to get your content control things changed later. And so they're going to sit comfortably in D tier, but at least there's no long-term contract, so you can do other things if you want to. But if you try and change your thumbnail, your poster, all of that, it's a whole hassle. So that's the main reason why film distribution sits comfortably, like traditional models where you get a distribution deal, in F tier, all the way down at the bottom. Because at the end of the day, to change anything about that page is an entire headache. And Tubi is going to go right into C tier because you can change some things like your poster, your synopsis or whatever. You can see some of that, but it is a whole re-approval process that can take weeks. And I think it's possible your movie comes down during that approval process. I'm not sure, but it is possible, but it's still not great. So that brings us comfortably to category number 2, which is data. How much data can you get and who owns it? The very, very, very key analytics of emails, because if you gather all the emails, then you own those people. And if they bought your movie once, they might buy the next one. They're pretty good candidates for that. How much can you see about conversion rate on the website? Who actually bought and when and why and what they did on the page? How much can you see about watch time? Who watched, when they dropped off, when they, came back, all of that stuff. So data is very important to this type of indie film distribution. In the data category, we are going to throw Squarespace and your own website, very expensive Netflix style build, way up in S tier because it's how much data do you want. You can put plugins here, you can track everything, conversion rate, bounce rate, all that stuff. These do have drawbacks, just not in these first two categories, right? They're very expensive and all that, but you can see everything. You can test 2 landing pages, you can even see drop-off rates, and most importantly, you can capture all of these email addresses when people sign up, and you build that list. So valuable. So that's amazing. Vimeo on Demand, I'm going to put up in A tier because while you can't see important metrics like how they interacted on the web page and all of that, you can see all of your drop-off rates, you can see viewing habits, you can see all of that. So you don't get quite as detailed of like, did they click the trailer but then not buy, like stuff like that, but you can see some important analytics in the end. And obviously in those 3 options, you can see purchase rates in almost real time, who bought exactly when, which is very important to make adjustments on the fly. For that reason, we're going to throw YouTube movies, like renting your movie on YouTube, straight into B tier because you see none of the marketing side of how people are behaving on your page, but you do get to see watch time and all of that. And for that reason, I'm also going to throw Tubi hesitantly into B tier because you can see some things, more things than Amazon or Apple TV lets you. You can see some completion rate stuff and things like that. They're not going to give you the emails or proprietary information like that. That's crazy. They won't do that. And this one, Gumroad, I'm throwing into C tier. I don't even know if Gumroad should be on here, but you can sell your movie that way. But they're going to give you some analytics. But again, it's not really built for movies. Finally, we've got Film Hub, which is like the aggregator. They put your movie online. They're going to give you some analytics back, but it's just not much. Once your movie goes to those big streamers like Apple TV and Amazon, all the data goes away, essentially, and they keep it all. They don't want you to have access to any of that. And so that's why film distribution is also, well, it's going to go straight into F tier because it's completely gone. Amazon, Apple, if you ask them for an email list of everyone who bought, they're going to put you on a watch list because they know how valuable that data is and they want to keep it. And just as an aside here, if you had 5,000 emails, you put them into Facebook Meta Ad Manager and you say find more people, that's a golden ticket for marketing anything really, and movies are no different because they're like, these people are people who buy indie movies. Let me find people who act like them online, and they go find them. So that's pretty clutch. Our next category is going to be speed, specifically of how fast you get paid, because that's important, and the difference is massive. So let's jump into speed. Let's go first, we'll grab YouTube movies. We're going to throw them comfortably in B tier because they do pay you fairly frequently. It's like once a month or maybe once a quarter, I forget, but it is faster than traditional methods. Up at the very top, we're going to throw Amazon, like building your own Netflix, build your own backwoods Squarespace site. We'll throw those up there because it's almost instant. Gumroad is really fast. Vimeo on Demand is really fast. These are all like weekly payouts that like hit pretty quick. Tubi, we're going to throw in A tier because I think they pay out monthly. I'm like 99% sure that's true, and that's pretty great. Which leaves us with our 2 guys here. Film Hub, they're going to pay out pretty often. That's a D tier. At least you're not locked into a really long contract or anything with them, and they are just passing the money back to you without taking expenses or anything, which takes a while. Which leaves us with film distribution. Surprisingly, they are going to go all the way down in F tier because you're going to get a payout summary as like an Excel file every quarter. And it's going to be old and it's going to be very minimal data. It's just like, these are the amount of people that bought, and the advice is basically just trust us. These are the amount of people that bought. So there's no integration into the back end of all this stuff, and it takes a long time. So that's how the speed of payment works out. That was a pretty easy one. Up next, legitimacy. This is actually pretty huge. How legit does your movie look? Because you're asking strangers to buy a $5 copy of your movie, and if it looks like you're selling it out of the trunk of your car in a parking lot, that doesn't look as good as if you're sitting next to a Chris Pratt movie, right? We all love that dude. What causes people to feel like your movie's real? This is going to be the first massive win for going with signing a traditional distribution deal or going through Film Hub, because they're going to get your movie on places where your aunt is impressed by you. You say, yeah, my movie's on Apple TV. And she's going to be like, what? That's a real movie. And it's also got the social proof of being selected. So it's next to other movies that are like legit films. And so yours must be legit, at least partially, if it's next to legit films. It's like psychologically, it's really strong. For that case, I'm also going to throw YouTube movies up into A tier. It's not an S tier, even though Film Hub and these other places will probably put it there, because YouTube, people have bought movies on YouTube. The reason it's bumped down is because it's still on YouTube, and there's still sort of a stigma that YouTube is just like free for all, and it kind of is, right? But YouTube movies is A tier. We're going to throw Vimeo on demand comfortably down into C tier because it's Vimeo. It kind of looks like you're buying a course or something, like an e-course, but at least it's not on your own website, right? At least it's on another platform and looks like it might be selected there. So it's going to be sit there. Gumroad, F tier immediately. Looks like you're selling, whoosh transition templates or Photoshop brushes, right? It just looks bad. I'm going to throw Tubi into B tier. Totally depends on if people are comfortable with that, if they know about it or not, right? If you tell someone who's never heard of Tubi that you're streaming on Tubi, it's kind of good. It's semi-legit, right? People do know about Tubi, so it's going to sit in B tier. And then this is where these take a massive hit. You're building your own website, no matter if it's the expensive all-in custom video player or Squarespace, because there's no social proof. Nobody's around you. No other films are around you, or if they are, it's just your films, right? So those do take a hit there for legitimacy. And in this category, film distribution companies do come out on top. Final category you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about money. How much of the money do you get to keep per sale? This is the potentially $1 million question, because if you're giving away all the money, and you do with some of these options, that's just, not a great solution. All right, right into the thick of it here. We're going to give YouTube movies a solid position in B tier. We're pretending that each movie rental is $5, which is pretty accurate. In this case, you're going to get about $2.50 of every rental, something in that ballpark, if you go straight to YouTube movies, because they're going to take their percentage, and then that's how much you get. Moving up into like an S tier option, Vimeo on demand is going to sit up there. Gumroad too, even though Gumroad, just for pure money, they give you almost all of the money, basically after fees and maybe a small, like $20 a month subscription or something like that. So you're going to keep most of your money in those cases. Absolutely S tier. You're looking at like of a $5 rental, keeping something like $4.50 maybe of the money yourself. That's great. Moving down into A tier, we're going to throw Squarespace because it's essentially the same. You can charge however much you want, and on a $5 rental, after fees, you're looking at, $4.25, something like that. But you also have to pay for Squarespace, and you have all of these, probably plugins and things you're paying for. So the overhead's a little higher, but that's still a great option. I'm taking our own custom Netflix site here, and I'm dropping it all the way down to C tier because it's so expensive. You're going to have to host it. You're going to have a developer develop the whole thing. I mean, it's just kind of a nightmare situation, honestly, unless you are a developer and you want to spend like 5 weeks building your own thing, but you're still going to have to pay per stream. It's just expensive. And honestly, Tubi, this is a tough one because they pay you 8 cents per video stream. So that's not very much, but it's also free for people to watch. So the friction of getting someone to buy it goes way down. But you're only getting 8 cents streams per rental. And just to put it in perspective, I'm going to throw this in for money into B tier. It's either B or A tier. I can't quite tell. To put it in perspective, when we were selling our movie Turbo Cola, our cost per click, per landing page visit, when we were running Facebook ads, was 8 to 12 cents. So if that's how much you're paying to get people to go watch your movie, and not all of them are watching, there's like a percentage of them are watching, right? Tubi pays 8 cents. It doesn't pay for itself. You're already upside down losing money. So it's going to go there for me, which leaves us with our big two here. I'm going to throw film distributors in here with Amazon on C tier because you pay one time and they put the movie up there, but then Amazon Prime takes 50%, Apple TV takes 30%, and then Film Hub's going to take, I think, 20% on top of that. So really, you're not getting back much of the money at the very end. It's probably a D tier solution, but because they're transparent with their pricing and they don't charge you expenses and stuff, throwing them in C tier just because I think that's accurate. Film distribution companies, probably no surprise, go straight into an F tier because it's all of the upsides of Film Hub. You're on the major platforms, but then the platform takes the fee, the distributor takes the fee, and then the distributor also charges you recoupable expenses. So if you see a check from a distributor, that's a miracle because most people don't. Most people just watch their money get taken to pay off the expenses that the distributor is charging them. And they're also, when they pay out, they just send you like a CSV file, which is like, you just have to trust that it's accurate. You're like, yeah, okay, this seems like it's probably accurate, but anybody could have typed anything they wanted to in here. So you can audit them and everything, but that's a whole process, and you probably don't have the money to do that. And anyway, so this is the ranking of this. That brings us to our final phase, the overall ranking of these platforms. Who's the winner? Who's the loser? Let's see what we think. The reason that I care so much about all this is that when we distributed our movie Turbo Cola, we went the traditional route. We didn't even really consider any of the alternate routes. And it wasn't until after we'd signed the deal and we were 2 years in and we hadn't really made any money, and the distributor had made actually a bunch of money, and they were a good distributor. They were not shady at all. It's just the way the deals are structured is not set up to benefit the independent filmmaker. So that's why I care about this. I'm literally working through this myself for next time. So that's what you're watching right now. So the easiest one here, Gumroad, is a solid D tier because the financials are great, the analytics are decent, but the legitimacy is just bottom barrel. Like, nobody is going to trust that your movie is not just like a PDF thing for how to get rich quick or something, or a preset pack. It just doesn't have the credibility. I'm going to give YouTube Movies a solid B tier here because it's on YouTube. People are used to buying movies on YouTube. It's a decent split. You can see some analytics, but it's bumped down because you have no control over marketing. You have no control over changing a whole ton of stuff. And it's on YouTube, which still feels like maybe it should just be free, right? Above them on A tier, I'm going to throw Vimeo On Demand on A tier because what it lacks in legitimacy, it makes up for with, you can market it with a Facebook pixel, you can change a lot of stuff, you have control of it. The revenue split is fast and is really, really fair with just a subscription fee per month. I mean, you have to sell like 10 copies of your movie a month to pay for the subscription fee, right? So like, that's a pretty good deal. The reason it's not S tier is that it's still on Vimeo, so it still feels a little like it should be like a course or something like that. I am going to throw a Squarespace site into C tier because it feels like you didn't get selected by any other platform and you couldn't get selected, so you had to just sell it out of the trunk of your car, right? That's the feeling. Even though you have great analytics, you have great financials, you have complete control, all of that, it doesn't have the credibility of being next to that Chris Pratt movie or whatever, right? And in a similar fashion, I'm going to throw Tubi. I think it goes into either B or C tier. I'm going to go B tier because people don't know yet, right? And because that 8-cent payout, even though it's free to rent, the 8-cent payout is just brutal if you're trying to actually market your movie. It does not make sense to run ads to get people to go see your Tubi movie because you're just going to pay more per thing. It's just really hard to get the thing not upside down in that case. AWS, building your own expensive site. This is going to go into C tier, maybe D tier, because it's so expensive and so specialized. Yes, you get complete control, you get your own fancy thing, but again, it has the same problem as the Squarespace. There's no other movies on that website, right? That give it that social proof. Which leaves us with FilmHub. I'm throwing them actually into C tier. The reason being that they get you on all of the reputable sites, and at least the deal is transparent, and they're not going to nickel and dime you with expenses. So once you pay them, it's fair numbers. You know the numbers. They're going to take their cut. The platform takes their cut. You get whatever's left. You're not wondering all the time what they're going to charge you for this month. A very, very decent option. And then finally, without doubt, film distribution, traditional, goes all the way down in F tier. Once you give them their movie, no control, no data, slow payment, opaque business practices, tons of expenses. You're on all the major platforms. They stop marketing it after a few months and they own it for years and you can't do other things with it. So this is my definitive ranking of these things as it stands now. One thing you'll notice is that there is a complete space up here. There's nothing in S tier. S tier is completely empty because this thing doesn't exist yet. And I actually have some ideas for this that I'm putting together now. I'm not going to say much, but if you want to join the wait list, either subscribe here or just click a link or something below. Maybe it's active by the time you watch this. I don't know. But the problem is that this whole system was built for huge movies doing huge numbers, not for us small movies doing medium numbers. And so even using any of these things just doesn't quite make sense in the modern day. I do think truly the most plug-and-play solution is the Vimeo on-demand solution. And the second best plug-and-play solution is some combination of your own Squarespace site plus Film Hub to get on Amazon and Apple TV, plus Tubi that you do by yourself. It's some sort of combination of all of these things together so that you get the reputational clout of being on Apple TV and Amazon. You get the payout of driving everybody, all of your paid traffic to Vimeo or to your Squarespace site, and you kind of get to have your cake and eat it too. But again, this S tier is blank, and I think that that's accurate because the perfect solution doesn't exist. It's a big problem for all of us. So I would love to hear any of your success stories or horror stories. Let's build some sort of community in the comments where we can all kind of learn from what people have done right and done wrong, because the big guys are all trying to keep us not playing together, and we're really all on the same team, trying to make good movies that aren't just algorithm slop. And at the end of the day, the business side of it does actually matter. All right, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully this was helpful.